Hello, hello. Ron Callis here with another episode of Automation Unplugged. Hope you all are doing well. Thank you for tuning in. And today is Wednesday, August 25th. It is a little bit after 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And what I am going to do is I'm actually going to jump over to the social media platforms and see if we're actually streaming, see if technology is behaving. So bear with me. I'm getting word that things do look okay. I'm going to refresh my screen, make sure I'm seeing the same. And there we go. I think we are live. Awesome. Well, thank you all for tuning in. These have certainly been an interesting several weeks. You know, I know our industry was so excited. Maybe some of you still are excited about getting together in person at the big industry event called the CEDIA Expo, at least for our residential friends here in North America. Many of you historically go to CEDIA. And that is slated to start next week, except yours truly will no longer be there. We were planning to be there. We were excited to be there. And, but at the end of the day, I think at this point, over 100 plus manufacturers have pulled out of the event. And I actually don't know many integrators that are going. And that just kind of is what it is. Now, the question is, will the rest of the industry events happen? So in the fall, we are still slated to go out to the ASEAN conference in late September. There's Infocom in October and HTSA in October. And we're slated currently to be at all those events. And it's going to be an interesting coming weeks to determine if all that happens. I hope it does. I can tell you we're certainly rooting for all these events happening and for everyone that does attend to feel safe and secure in attending. So I think we're doing it like most and that we're playing it by ear. So we will see how that goes. But let's go ahead and jump into the interview. Got a great guest, one of the nicest guys you all are ever going to see and meet and or hear from if you're listening on the podcast. And that is Larry Supon. He is here for show number 184. And Larry is the president of Automated Lifestyles. They're in the Northeast Pennsylvania area. So let's go ahead and bring in Larry and let's get the party started. Larry, how are you, sir?
Great, Ron. How are you?
I am good. I hope I didn't build up that you're one of the nicest guys they'll ever meet. So this is now your chance to be the asshole, live on air. I promise this is the only time I'll curse at the show. Maybe not.
A lot of pressure there, Ron. I'll tell you,
Yeah, I know. Larry, why don't you, we'll start off. Where are you coming to us from?
Yeah, Ron, coming from my home office in Moscow, Pennsylvania. Moscow, might want to call that the vodka capital of Pennsylvania, I guess, because people always ask us, where's Moscow? But
is there a vodka? You said vodka, right? Is there a vodka? Yeah. Oh, because Russians drink vodka. Is that
exactly? Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
So I was slow to that. I was like, what, is there a vodka distillery in Moscow? That's funny. All right. We already have some folks jumping in here. Alex says, welcome, Larry. Ron is correct. Larry is one of the nicest clients I've ever interacted with at One Firefly. That is one heck of a compliment. That's tremendous. Larry, tell us about Automated Lifestyles. What type of projects do you guys do? What's the size of your business, maybe from a manpower standpoint? Give us the basics.
Sure, Ron. We were 11 employees. We do cover 75-mile radius from part of Northeast Pennsylvania. So we touch Southern New York, Northern Philadelphia, and in between, of course. we're 40% commercial, 60% residential. So we also do, like I said, on the commercial side, we'll do, courtroom projects, things like that. You say we're probably like a lot of companies right now, we're in a growth stage, and some of the things that we'll talk about later. But big picture wise,
how's 2021 looking? And I'll speak top line revenue. You don't need to give your number, but just how is it maybe as a percentage basis over 2020?
Yeah, we're this year we're on target to be up about 25 to 33% from last year. Mm-hmm.
That's pretty significant. And do you mind going a little deeper into the breakdown? Resi, is that up or down? And then commercial, how is that up or down compared to last year?
Yes, the resi is definitely up from last year. Percentage wise, it's actually up really quite a bit from last year. Commercial actually is down slightly for us from last year at the moment, but overall we still think we're going to to end up about where we were last year on commercial side.
And then just to get one of the other elephants in the room out of the way, what's the latest with you with the supply shortage stuff? I mean, I've been hearing all sorts of woes with chips, and now there's even the latest, I guess, issues relating to China, and some of their ports are shut down due to Delta. And I don't know if that's hit the US market yet, but I always like to keep a pulse on that. How are you doing with your vendors and your ability to get product?
We've been managing it, struggling a little here and there, but managing it as most. We did make a decision as late as the end of last year to stock up on as much as we can, and to be able to meet the customer needs. I'll see the most popular products that we use and things like that. Of course, you run into some chip issues where you can't satisfy certain customers, but we are very transparent, and we communicate with them and just let them know what's happening as we do.
Is there any change that you're observing in that kind of category of discussion around the ability for your vendors to get you the product? Is there any change you've witnessed in the last 30 days, or is it kind of still status quo?
Still status quo, yes.
Okay. Understood. And then the other elephant in the room, as I on my lead in here, although those on the podcast maybe didn't hear me mention it, and that was about CEDIA. And the show is happening next week in Indianapolis. One Firefly and the rest of the industry was gung-ho, ready to go, big and loud and hard for CEDIA. And there's been, essentially a total implosion of the show, sadly, for many reasons, sadly, in the last 2 weeks. Were you guys planning to go to CEDIA?
This year we were not, Ron. We were actually working on some internal leadership coaching and other things, kind of working on ourselves. But we definitely value every year we do get to CEDIA, just the interactions with other companies, of course with vendors too, and the learning that takes place. We're definitely looking forward to that next year for sure.
Got it. Well, it's now up until last year, so 20, I was able to, not that this is worth $5, but I was able to tell people I had been to 20 CEDIAs in a row. And I was super proud of that. And then last year, we didn't attend. Obviously, there was no event. And then this year, One Firefly corporately officially made the call early last week that we would not be attending. It was just too much of a safety risk for our team. And now, I was looking on the strategy website, and Ted Green runs strategy, and he's got a listing of who's pulled out. And at this point, it's over 100 vendors. Wow. So I don't know how that show continues, but it's a sad state of the affairs. But I know we're all hoping and praying it comes back strong next year.
Absolutely.
Larry, let's go into your past. Tell us where you're from. Tell us how did you land here in 2021 as a successful integrator that's growing a strong business? Tell us your origin story.
Ron, I grew up in a town called Hazleton, Pennsylvania, right near there. And actually, as a young child, my parents owned a restaurant, so I always kind of grew up, hard work. We were always, from 9 years old, I was working in the restaurant industry. liked math and things like that. Ended up becoming an electrical engineer. Went to Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
And I mentioned to you just before we went live, I lived in Bethlehem there for about 6 months when I started my career with Lutron.
Yes, and you actually got hired by Lutron. I didn't, but that's another story. So,
but you did electrical engineering. That's like the really hard engineering. That was at Virginia Tech. I had to do. I want to say this could be I could be misremembering, but I had to do like 6 semesters worth of electrical engineering stuff in my curriculum, and oh my God, were those all the courses I hated. I liked gears and levers and things I could physically see. Those invisible electrons, they gave me the hardest time. So kudos to you to get that degree. That was a hard one.
Well, thanks, Ron. And so when I graduated from there, I actually worked for a local company. It was an international company, but they were based in Bethlehem, and we were programming. I was in the programming group, so we would program large mining operations and things of the sort like that, all over South America, South Africa, places like that. And we use very similar things to what we use today. You'd have graphical interfaces, someone would press a button and would start up the plant. And it was a great opportunity. I learned a lot. As I learned through that, one of the things I learned is, tons of travel, you're away from your family. What type of business could I be in where I'm still involved in the technology, but you can sleep in your own bed at the end of the day? And that's what led me to starting Automated Lifestyles in 2000.
I used to, in my beginning career, my early career, I thought travel was so cool. And then I quickly learned travel ain't so cool. It's pretty overrated. Sounds like you went through the same process.
Yes, those are the things you learn about. You're right, over time.
So what was the next move?
Well, probably like a lot of us out there, and I would say you know what you know, right? Technology, you might be a technology whiz, and then you realize, boy, selling's a little more difficult than I thought. I thought that was going to be easy, and you start figuring things out, and over time you get another employee, but you start, stumbling along the way and figuring things out, and you're making progress. And then fast forward, X number of years, like I say, here we are, 21 years later, obviously in a much different position than we were, back in the day. And you take the lessons learned, and that's, one of the reasons that I was here today. I want to pass on some of those lessons and information to others. It's all about giving back and helping.
What year did you start the business?
I did start it in February of 2000.
Wow. So that's amazing. So I'm just curious. So was it the technology experience of kind of that early career out of college, and you were exposed to some of this automation? But how did you know automation was happening in homes and businesses to the extent that you felt confident 21 years ago to launch a business doing that?
Well, I did see that there was a need for that. It was not well, you had to approach builders and, I'll say the drip effect, but, you had one call and you'd check up on them and check again. And, maybe over the course of 2 years, you'd start getting that first project where they'd say, hey, there's someone who inquired about this and from what you were telling me about. And, as you did that, you started building up clients and referrals, of course, but there was things were a little more involved back then, of course. Wireless wasn't where it was as is today, of course. And but having that microprocessor based, I'll say engineering technology helped on, we still use some relays and other things to make things work. HAI was of course big back then, and we all remember that name. So,
were you doing HAI when you started?
Yes.
Oh, look at you. And just to go back one more time, do you think that and I'm leading the witness here, was it your exposure to your parents? And you said they ran a restaurant?
Yes.
So they were entrepreneurs, hardworking entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Was it that exposure that perhaps gave you the confidence to go out and put up your own shingle? I mean, can you attribute it to that?
I can. Yes, it was always there. I always knew that I wanted to have our own organization, and then and what that was, took a little bit to evolve because my parents were also involved in fairs, and we sold Christmas trees at Christmas time, and we were always
They
doing
were go-getters.
something. They were go-getters. So we learned. My dad always said, "Hey, if you work hard, you'll never be without work and without a job." So it was inspired in us.
Early in your career, or at some point along the way, you said that you had, and this is you and I, because you and I have been working together for a little bit, so I know this about you. You had found an outside advisor, someone that kind of took you under their wing. Can you kind of maybe introduce who that person was and kind of what role they played in your early career?
Yes. So his name was Jack, and Jack was actually a 10-year customer of ours. And, maybe it was year 8 or 9 or 10, he was asking, maybe to do another upgrade or something. Hey, what's your strategy? And, we didn't quite know exactly what he meant the first time. And he'd ask it again and ask it again. And, our typical strategy approach at the time was, hey, we know we want to grow. We want to do some more lighting control. We want to, whatever, expand in the commercial space. But it was not really a strategy. These were just some random ideas. So, Jack took us under his wing, and he was a strategy coach. And we had some key personnel in our organization. And over a 6-month period, he kind of sat us down and really peeled, I'll say, the layers of the onion off, and really dug deep and said, we got to figure out the strategy portion. So, what we started really looking at is like, who are we as an organization? Who do we serve? So, sometimes you go back to those when you're in grammar school and they say, hey, do a book report, and you say who, what, when, where, why, answer all these questions. But we had to answer all of those questions about ourselves. And it might sound like it's a very simple thing to do, but I think as you really dive into that, you realize how involved those steps can become. It's a lot of really intense thinking, so just as I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so this is important, and certainly for our audience, you were running your business for 10 years. And there was a point where one of your customers kept asking you these questions about your strategy, clearly trying to nudge you in a direction of let me help you.
Right.
And just at a high level, what did that do for you in terms of bringing someone in, this kind of concept of injecting an expert into the business, in helping you look at your business differently, maybe not working so much in the business, but on the business? And it sounds like that happened 11 years ago or so, based on me doing some rough math. So talk about that.
Yeah. So I'm a big proponent of having experts. If I use just the analogy of a home, right, we are all involved in these projects where there's an architect, an interior designer, and a custom integrator, right? So we're all experts in our field, and we can together make that environment much better for the homeowner than, say, if those experts weren't involved. As we now look at that as a house project, why don't we bring that into our businesses in the same approach? I do the same. Let's say I have one Firefly as for social media, because we've tried it on our own. We can't do things. We don't have the success. But taking that, another step further, again, as far as working on the business, having somebody outside help you with that, I believe is really paramount to getting to the next level of things. So in this case, the strategy coach, bringing their experience and input, and also holding us accountable to get stuff done. We're all busy as small business owners, and sometimes you just need someone to say, you're going to get this done next Thursday, right? Okay, I'm going to get this done next Thursday.
That concept of accountability, and I have a note here from my discussions with you, this building a culture of accountability. How have you driven that through your organization once you were introduced to that concept?
Well, yes, we have. So when I talk about, say, the strategy, and I'll answer that question in 1 second, Ron. So, but
Yeah,
when I
please.
talk about the strategy, for us, that became a roadmap of where we were headed. And without that, I think if you don't know where you're headed, it's hard to get accountability and get everybody in the same alignment. So once you figure out those answers to those questions. Just for example, for us, I'll just give you one example. As we made a list through that process of who are the top 5 customers that we've had, who are the worst 5 customers that we've had, and why were they the best or the worst. And some of the things that we uncovered about, say, the worst customers / projects were that they were not actively involved in our projects. So it might have been a $200,000 install job, but when move-in day came and they said, hey, we wanted the TV on this wall and not on this wall, and they weren't involved in the project, we took that just one little snippet that was part of our strategy, and we say we work with customers who are actively involved in their projects. And we take that all the way up to sales now. So we talk about that with a customer, a prospect, a lead, and we say, this is important to us. Is this something that you can commit to? And that's how you start making changes in your organization and having the right customers. But now you can, when you have a compass going in what direction you're heading, and now you have the right people on the bus, I'm going to say, that's driving in that direction. That's where the accountability can start to happen, where you're talking about having a leadership team and holding them accountable to get there. And we can talk about some of the ways we've been doing that as well.
That you called that original coach, you said Jack, correct?
Yes.
How long did you work with Jack? How many months or years did you guys stay working with him?
So it was an intense 6-month period where we were able to unveil confidently what the strategy was on a one piece of paper, that had exactly who we were, who we worked for, what geographical territory we were going to cover, what jobs that we were going to do, what jobs we were not going to take. And with that, that took about 6 months. And then after that, of course, it was about another year and a half where we're bouncing ideas and maybe tweaking that strategy after you first develop it and put it to its test and live with it. So,
got it. And do you still work with Jack, or do you work with someone else?
Yes. So Jack had gone back to the corporate world and was not able to work with us. And actually, I had gone back to the days of when I was in the corporate world myself and found a leadership coach that had helped me when I was actually in her program. Her name was Marla, back in the 90s before establishing Automated Lifestyles. So we came full circle and brought her on as a leadership coach for our team.
So what does that mean to have a leadership coach today?
Good question. So, with getting the right people on the bus, driving in the right direction, the next thing that we had to uncover was, we knew who we wanted to have as our leaders, who were our key players, key performers, but we needed to get their skill set in alignment with, the direction we were heading as well. But one of the things that we did that she helped us with was we took an Excel spreadsheet and we started at what's the very first step of, when you get a lead, a prospect, all the way through the sales. Now it's become a project, all the way through a project, all the way through service, a whole life cycle of a customer. And we literally made a line by line task. And in that spreadsheet, we would say who's involved in that decision. And then they always have to have one person who's accountable for that final decision, so that as you start going through this process, as a group, by the way, because I think it's very important to do as a group. If you hand somebody something, they don't really take ownership. But if they're part of this as a group and they have the input to it, not only do you get the best result, but I think this provided us a lot of role clarity. So then all the team members knew what they were accountable for. They were involved in that decision, but they also knew what others were accountable and what their roles were, so that it helped, working together is definitely improved drastically because of that document. And now we have a standard operating procedure, right? So it's not like we have to think about this on every job. We have something to refer to and tweak. And we've taken that accountability not just on leadership team, but now how do we get that to everybody in the organization, right? So we've taken that down to the technician level. So we'll have a product lead on a project. Let's say this technician, you're responsible for structured wiring and the audio video rack. Well, there's a checklist there, and did you do this, and this, and then you've got to sign off, and they have some ownership because they feel responsible and accountable for part of the project. Somebody else might do security, and they can sign off on that. But it kind of just builds that whole alignment and everybody working together in the same, in the same direction.
I'm going to get a bit tactical here. What are some of the types of meetings you have in a normal week, Larry? Like, what is the meetings maybe where it's all staff versus you and the executive or the leadership team versus, different sub-departmental meetings? Do you mind sharing?
Sure. I mean, we have, we do encourage because of now where people have roles, our project managers will talk with the operations managers, and they have meetings, say Monday morning meeting. Well, they'll talk directly, and I'll sit in on those meetings. And then Wednesdays, is a service meeting. So again, scheduling between operations and service manager, but again, we try to keep it so that we time our meetings. We try to make them, see how efficient we were. We like to rate our meetings at the end. So we do 1 to 10. How was this meeting? What could we have done better? Because we all know meetings will tend to run on and on. But of course, company meetings, communication meetings are equally important. But we found that preparation and time spent in communication, we had to learn the hard way, is time well spent. That half an hour thinking about the job next week could uncover something versus, going there in the morning. And I'm just saying, as an example, that thinking, communicating is really how you deliver a great product.
Now that's fascinating. What if you think big picture here in terms of the business, you and your coach looking at your business as an advisor, you're not just an operator within the business. What's the big project or projects, and you look forward to the next 12 months? What's on the board?
Well, the next 12 months, we're just really finalizing a lot more of, I'll say, now that we've had a lot of these bigger picture standard operating procedures, we're fine-tuning our more detailed operating procedures, but we're really working on coaching. Coaching could be between a lead technician on site and other technicians, for instance. We have these conversations with, how do we give them the information that they need to do their job? Maybe they have to be shown in a certain way. Everybody learns a little differently. So, they need a little bit of theory perhaps, but, we've also got to let them, we've realized that 70% of what we learn is when you're on the hot seat, really. So we've got to form some of that because we learn from our experience. They always say experience is the best teacher. So, but we can't, of course, put them in the hot seat when we've got to get a job done tomorrow. So we've got to think about this smartly. But we want our team to be coached up so that, they can feel comfortable. Not only lead those who are leading others, can feel comfortable how they're leading. And sometimes there's internal things you have to overcome, and we have things that go back to our childhoods or other things and that's where that bouncing it, I think, by someone as outside your organization can really help. I can help with the details of how this could be done within the business, but sometimes there's just external factors that are really great to have that other person there to bounce things by.
A lot of folks around the industry are having challenges with, there's incredible demand for your services, and at the same time, there seems or appears to be in certain markets a limited supply of, person power to be brought into the organization. Are you guys experiencing that? And if so, how are you handling that?
Yes, I mean I think like you said, everybody's probably experiencing, trying to find workers, so the things that I've mentioned about, obviously you want to be as efficient as you can. You don't want to have to be running back to job sites because you didn't think about something, do something properly, and that's where those standing operating procedures come in. But we really believe that we want to have a company culture where people want to work here. We reward our team. We can sense when people are working hard and they're picking up a lot of time. And when we have a little bit of a lull, we'll take a half day and play cornhole and open up the garage bays and fire up the grill and reestablish camaraderie and communication, because those are the things that may carry you for another 6 weeks of hard work. And as far as talent goes, we're working with a local 2-year technical school called Johnson College, and we've had some great employees from there, and we've got a great relationship that we've established with them over the years, and I think that's helping us as well. So we've kind of partnered with them, and they want to tune in on what the industry looks like, and they look at a bunch of industry, HVAC, other industries, but we're one of the ones that they consult with to see what's out there, how their students should be trained and educated, and they are looking for real input, and we give them that input. And we also we'll take on internships from them. That's been a big help. So then we have a chance to evaluate the talent over a 2-3 month period. They also get credit for that, and that's been a help for us.
How would those listening, how should they do that? Because that sounds like a genius idea, to partner with the local. Is it the community college, or was it a vocational school, or what is it?
Yeah, they are a 2-year technical school, but these colleges, they're looking, of course, to place as many of their students as they can and to be successful. So they are more than open to, if you reach out to them. Usually I would start with, we had started with the Career Center, get involved, actively in there, get to know the people, and then you start working your way through where you start knowing, we actually, know the professors, we know, executive management, and it takes some time, but work on those relationships, because it really does help them, and it helps your business as well.
No, that's brilliant. So what keeps you up at night?
The only thing I really worry about, Ron, is, I would say, things that I always just kind of want to make sure that, the customer is happy. So, those are really the only things that keep me up at night. So things you can't control, probably I shouldn't even be up at night, but, like you say, delivery issues, other things that are beyond our control. But I have full confidence in our team and our staff. They don't keep me up at night, because, we have issues, we talk about them. It's really external factors, because we just have an open level communication. They know they can tell me anything. I'm not going to be offended. That's how I learn and become better, and vice versa in our organization. It's a very open, so we don't let things brew or stem. We kind of hit problems head on.
No, it sounds like you've really built a wonderful culture. Are there books? I'm curious, outside of your coach, your leadership coach, is there books or podcasts or other types of media that you're consuming around business or leadership, or some of the philosophies that you practice?
Yes, for sure. We're big proponents of, like you said, I do a lot of reading on business in and of itself. I've learned a lot over the years with sales, like you talk about. Sales in and of, also has, understanding personalities of people, and matching and mirroring behaviors and things. So you start getting into the psychology of humans, and that opens up, not just the business books, but also, just becoming a better person, and understanding people more. I think just really helps, your organization plus your sales plus, working with personnel. So those are my interests typically, what I read on.
Any particular books stand out? Any book recommendations or other formats?
I'm big on I'll say Sandler related stuff. I don't know if you ever heard of Sandler. Sandler's sales process, and they have a lot of things. So we use their process ourselves. And actually, when we talk about outside experts, I've also had to have an outside sales coach, in the past to help us with developing standard operating procedures for sales. Just how do you approach things? How's the typical conversation go? And that's led me to their website, and a lot of content and information resides there.
No, that's brilliant.
And Michael Hyatt is another one. I don't know if you've read any of his books, but I use the Full Focus Planner from Michael Hyatt and a lot of his organizational things as well, and leadership as well.
Let's talk about tech. What sort of gear, technologies, solutions out there have you excited? What's on the forefront? What's happening and from whom that has you excited about the next, 6 to 12 months?
I mean, we're definitely excited about Ketra. We're a Lutron Ketra dealer. We've got a lot of interest in that. We've definitely expanded our role into the lighting realm, as I'm sure a lot of us in the industry have. You look for opportunities, and you're already doing the lighting control. So the lighting fixture side of things, tape lights and recessed lights, coastal source, outdoor landscape lighting. So we've really morphed into gaining more and more of that knowledge. We have trainings from the International Landscape Lighting Institute that we're going to help us, while Coastal Source does design, we still have to do the install and the final setup. So the more knowledge we have about outside lighting, same with inside lighting, of course, and say Ketra, DMF, American Lighting, those types of companies offer some great resources. So that's really been our push is mostly on the lighting side of things.
Are you currently offering lighting design as a service, a labor service, or is that something you're looking to add?
Yes, we are. We have several projects right now where we are taking the lighting lead. We actually provide all the drawings for the electricians and things like that. And it's not that difficult. It's just taking that little bit of, gaining a little confidence, getting yourself geared up knowledge-wise, and then taking that step to approach. We've also, as I'm sure other viewers have in the past, we've worked with, lighting design companies, distributor level, and we've even brought as a resource a former distributor lighting design consultant who does on a pay per job to review things and help us through these few steps here as we get our expertise up.
What's the financial impact, or what do you project the financial impact to be as a percentage? I mean, by adding lighting design, that means you get to add lighting fixtures. Mm-hmm. And by adding lighting fixtures, that ties into lighting control. Mm-hmm. Focusing on this and growing the importance in your business, it's, I'm assuming, allowing you to take more wallet share from the customer, sell that same customer more stuff.
Yes.
And I'm going to make an assumption, and I don't know this to be fact, but you can correct me. I'm assuming fixtures are probably a high margin category of gear to sell. Is that true or
not
so
really?
True?
Well, I should say Coastal Source, yes.
It probably depends, right? Which vendor, which products?
It does, yeah. But what I guess typically what we see is indoor lighting might be like more of a 10% type of margin or something. But the nice thing about something like that is it's really a handoff. You're designing it, you're purchasing it, you're handing it off to the builder's electrician, and he's typically installing that, and then it's going to work with your Lutron or whatever lighting control system you're using because it's paired, the drivers match, so it gives you the customer that better end result where you have the confidence that there's not going to have flickering, fixtures and things of that sort.
How have your customers been responding to the conversation around Ketra, i.e., tunable lighting, circadian rhythm lighting? What is the how has the pitch been received, and what's the response out there?
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's well received. I think the only downside of that we see, is everybody wants it and they want it everywhere, but the affordability just isn't quite there yet on so that it can be there in main parts of the home, and then certain areas just we end up having to remove certain parts of the home. But once they experience that, we have a showroom that we partnered with a builder, but to have that experience where they can feel how different it is when you're in a space like that, and Lutron of course knows that, and other companies, when they take through their experience center, they know that when customers experience something, they're more willing to buy it. And we've taken that just analogy approach to more regional market here.
So in certain markets, Lutron or Crestron or Savant or Brand XYZ, they have various showrooms, facilities that I know dealers can go to. Do you have one of those for Lutron? I mean, you're right there in Northeast PA, so I'm assuming you probably can even drop over to Lutron. And do they have a facility there
Yes.
that you're allowed to bring people to?
Yes, yeah, we're in the Pocono region here, and we've partnered with a local, kitchen design, and we can take customers into that facility at any time and let them experience, in a kitchen environment, just how the I'll say they have wood grain floors and other things, and as you kind of start looking and changing the color, you can see how the reds really pop in the hardwood flooring. And if they're giving samples, we can really show and demonstrate how the colors can pop, and they can really bring out granite, wood grains, whatever those things are. And it's nice to show that. If you talk about it as one thing, but when you can actually demonstrate that, kind of people see it for themselves.
Is it possible, or how hard is it to sell tunable lighting without a demonstration?
I think it's very hard I think obviously if you're going back to an existing customer where that trust is there and they've seen your work, they might be more willing to give it a try. But again, it's probably more on a smaller scale, and they're not going to retrofit whole spaces until they see it a little bit first. But if you can demo it to somebody early on, you might get that specified in on more areas of a whole project than you would without demoing it.
What are you seeing out there with the demand for technology and home offices? I'm going to say pre-COVID, this was a rarely talked about topic, at least from integrators talking to One Firefly about marketing. And I'm going to say I have a perception that that's changed during COVID. Are you still seeing that, or what other anomalies that are COVID anomalies that have changed demand for tech?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, when I talk about the same college that we talked about that we work with locally, say Johnson College, we've done 20 plus video conference rooms for them. Obviously, the need is there for Zoom type, Google Meets, those types of scenarios.
Zoom rooms or Google rooms.
Exactly. Yes. So people are obviously more aware of they need better quality cameras. They need better quality whether it's sound bars or some type of mic that's picking up their instructors. And yes, so they are now more educated to be able to approach what they know what they want now, where maybe in years past when you had those conversations, but now we know that this has changed things for not just for the short term, but long distance travel and corporations. And we've done training rooms and other scenarios that might not have happened pre-COVID, at least not for a while.
All right, pull out your crystal ball. How much longer are we in the world going to be in this new paradigm of the COVID world? What do you predict?
As far as getting through all this,
getting through all this.
I still think we're probably a little ways out, Ron. As much as I would, I feel like I would hope not to say that, and it pains me to say that. I still feel that we're probably into sometime in the next year. I don't know where that is exactly, but just feeling the pain effects from not only, the health aspect of it, but, say supplier issues, things like that, chipsets, as that cascades downward. I just don't see that us kids getting out of that until sometime next year.
We can wrap here, Larry, with maybe the advice for the entrepreneur out there. You've been at this game for 21 years. You've learned a lot along the way. You've already delivered a tremendous amount of gold over the course of the last 45 minutes. But what's maybe a closing thought or two that's top of mind for you that you might be able to pass on or provide some advice?
Sure. I guess the best advice I would say was just start with the plan, even if your plan isn't correct. When we talked about things such as, strategy, leadership coaching, it all comes down to everything is written down. There's a plan. You're committing to it. Doesn't mean you can't change it over time, but, as the saying go, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. So, but if you know where you're going, it's a lot easier to get there faster. So those are some of the things that I've learned around.
Come up with the plan and write it down. And if it's not written down, it's not a plan.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Larry, for those that are tuned in and they want to meet you directly or learn more about Automated Lifestyles, where should we send them?
Yes. You can send an email to me, Larry at automated-lifestyles.com. And of course, go directly to our website for more information. Happy to help anybody.
Awesome. Larry, it has been a pleasure having you on show 184 of Automation Unplugged. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure, Ron. Thank you very much. Take care.
All right, folks, there you have it. And I've got a few comments here, but I'll just post Brandy's. Brandy just says, great wisdom from Larry. So I completely agree. And I think the ideas that Larry is espousing, they're very close and near and dear to my heart and mind. And that is, I've been an entrepreneur for 14 years, and I can tell you there's a lot of falling on my face along the way, a lot of trials and tribulations. And the idea that you can bring in an outside advisor or coach or mentor to help maybe point you in help you determine where are you trying to actually go. It's very profound what Larry said, and that us defining who are we and who do we serve and what are we trying to be when we grow up. Sounds simple. I talk to businesses every single day, and I'd say the vast majority of them have not defined any of these things. And it makes it a lot harder to grow or to know how to spend time, money, and energy if you haven't actually defined these things. It's hard to gain alignment with your team or to bring the right team members on if they don't know who you are, who you serve, and where you're trying to go. So I think that Larry definitely figured some brilliant things out, 11, 12 years ago, and he's continued to sharpen the blade and get better. So definitely some golden advice there. On that note, I'm going to ask you, if you have not already done so, to please subscribe to the podcast. You'll find that on your favorite podcast app. And of course, follow One Firefly on all the social medias. We are here to help the custom integration industry, residential and commercial integrators grow your business. So definitely, if you are of mind on how to prepare and or improve your brand and or your digital marketing for now and or into 2022, 2023, God forbid the market should change, you definitely want to give us a call. Let us help. We have a fantastic team of 60 professionals here at One Firefly ready to serve. So on that note, I'm going to sign off, and I will bid you all adieu. And next week is CEDIA, but we're going to do a show anyway because we're not at CEDIA. So we'll see you next week for another episode of Automation Unplugged, and have a great rest of your week. Thanks, everyone.